East Copperbelt Province brings to you The Lens, a program designed to bring insightful information on economics, mining, education, health, tourism, agriculture, environmental issues, sports, entertainment, current affairs, and many issues affecting the well-being of society.
Well, viewers, welcome to The Lens. And today on The Lens, we are looking at football. And we shall look at the Olympic Games, where Zambia participated in football and athletics. And we shall also look at the curling Black Label Samuel Zoom Injirovu Charity Shield, the games that were played over the weekend. And we shall also look at the Charity Shield, the English Premier League Charity Shield, which were the games that were also played over the weekend. And we shall also look at the performance of our Zambian athletes at the Olympics. And to discuss this topic, or to discuss the issues of football and the other games, I have my guest for today, Mr. Peter Chanda. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Tovin.
And also I have Mr. Melvin Melek, who is also popularly known as Bebeto, and is our soccer analyst for today as well. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tovin, and thank you, viewers.
All right, and I'm your host, Tovin Ngombe, to walk you through this discussion on sports for today. And maybe we shall start by looking at the Olympics, where USA women team and Brazil rock horns, and USA carried the day. How do you look at that game, Mr. Chanda?
Oh, Tovin, that was a game of ages, and of course a game of bitter rivalry. What do I mean by game of ages? We saw the likes of Mata, the legendary Brazilian player, who had called on retirement, but of course there was a gesture the Olympics committee gave her to say she needed to play some for the final moment because of the inspiration she's been to the younger generations from the time she's been played for across a number of decades. So she was in there, and of course you see the United States, they both around in the South and North American. Of course they've been locking horns for quite some time. So that was the final for ages. All roads led to the final for the gold medal, where we saw, of course, the USA coming out triumphant over Brazil. It was on a low key that Mata, of course, retired finally without a medal. However, it was worth it that they finished second, and it was an interesting exchange of a game where we saw, of course, USA beating Brazil.
And it was not the first time Brazil was meeting USA in the finals, and on all the occasions they have met, they have lost, Mr. Merek. And it was unfortunate for Mata, for her she could not mint a gold medal, to at least say goodbye to her retirement in football. Mr. Merek, what do you look at that game?
Yes, Mr. Tovin, I think that was very sad for Mata. It was expected that maybe Brazil would carry the day, but that wasn't the case. You saw the USA triumphed over the Brazilians. But it was expected, Tovin. I'll tell you that I think the Americans did dominate in this tournament. You look at even they were placed in the same group as Zambia. They managed to beat Zambia, they managed to beat Germany, they managed to beat also the Matildas of Australia. So it tells you a lot that they were prepared for this tournament. No wonder they were so good when they took on the Brazilians. I think it was just sad, like even my colleague Peter said, that Mata, yes, was too expectant that she may have gone into retirement, having carried the trophy to Brazil, but that wasn't the case. But all in all, I think the Americans were just too good in the tournament. You look at the game that they played. I just said that they were 100% in the first group stage, that they were pitted against the Copa Queens. So they prepared for this tournament, and they just deserved to win that tournament. They were just too good.
Yeah, we saw Brazil actually scoring a goal that was actually disallowed. That would have changed the moment, and they were unfortunate that that goal, they could have maybe, it could have been something good for them, maybe even to even push them more and they win that game, but unfortunately they couldn't, it couldn't stand. Mr. Chand.
Yeah, Tovin, of course, modern football now, it's, you know, the prevalence of VAR. Now, there are a lot of moments where we say should have, could have, what would have been, you know, where we've seen goals being scored. And of course, one of the most memorable one during the Olympics for men was Argentina, when they thought they had won it. 9 minutes later, VAR reconvenes and, you know, rules out a goal, and they go back to play and they lose, you know. So those are the things that will characterize football now, with the technology having a role to play, you know. So those are the kind of things. Of course, it would have been a different story. Who knows, the momentum would have even shifted in favor of Brazil. But as we speak, they are second, and of course, USA mint gold, and they are the best team at the tournament.
Okay, let's look at the main team as well, where we had Spain and France were the host, and they lost that game, Mr. America, via penalties. How do you look at it as well?
Yes, the game that the hosts, France, took on Spain, yes, they did lose that game on penalties, but it was expected that Spain, I think, were too good over France. But I think I didn't look at that Spain would beat France. I was more expectant that France would carry the day, you know, considering the fact that I think they were playing at home, and you know, they had the 12th man, the spectators, to rally behind the team, and you know, they were supporting the team, but that wasn't the case. Spain were just too good, and the game ended in 2 penalties, which for me, I think I never expected that game to, you know, to go up to the penalty shootout. Because the penalty shootout, any other team can win the game. So for me, I think it was just quite unfortunate part in terms of the score sheet of that encounter. Because I think the French, they had it all. They had what it takes to win that game. Okay, but that wasn't the case, and we saw that Spain did carry that game. They won that game.
Look at also the game that was also the 3rd and 4th, and we had our own teams, Africans, Egypt and Morocco. We are playing for the 3rd and 4th, and Morocco managed to beat the fellow Arabs there by about a very wide scoreline, 6 goals. How do you look at that game, Mr. Chanda?
Oh, well, Tovin, when you look at the 3rd and 4th playoff, that was more like a dead rubber. However, Morocco had other plans, of course, thrashing their neighbors by 6 goals to 0. And of course, it was no respect of a legend in Mohamed Elneny, who was the captain for Egypt. And he had also retired, of course, being a free agent after leaving Arsenal also. But the coach, you know, recalled him and had him in the squad to steer and bring up experience for the young ones. But of course, Hakim Ziyech and team had a different plan, and they were thrashed by 6 goals to 0. And of course, they finished 3rd in that tournament. So it was in respect of a neighbor, but the business at hand, which were Olympics, to finish 3rd.
But let's look at the positives.
Yeah.
2 African teams reaching the same finals at the Olympics, and it's the first time, Mr. Merrick. Is that not good for the development of soccer in Africa, and it can give other encouragement to other African teams that they can also do it, than just going there just to merely participate and then come back with nothing?
It's quite good for the development of football in Africa, Tovin, because the 2 teams, I think, did represent Africa very well. You talk of Morocco, talk of Egypt. I think they participated very well. Not only that, I think we had also Mali. Also Mali, even when they were putted out, the quarterfinals, but they did play very well. So I think we had a very good representation in terms of African teams that participated. Okay, and the only thing that I'll tell you that I wasn't happy that the two teams had to meet together. You know, Africa versus Africa. I'm talking of Egypt and Morocco, where the two teams met. And you know, it was expected that Morocco, I think they looked so good. They managed to beat the Egyptian by 6-0, which was quite a huge scoreline by the Moroccans. They were just too good. But the good part is that it adds value in terms of development of African football.
Yeah, the other women team as well, which were in the same group, Germany versus Spain in the same finals. And they are playing for the fourth and third position. Germany and Spain, and Germany carrying at the day, and they are the other team that were hammered the Copper Queens, I think 4-1. They are given a bashing, and they reached the same finals, and the other team reached finals. So it means Zambia was in a very thick group. How do you look at that game as well between Germany and Spain?
Oh yeah, well, Tovin, when you look at a group Zambia, the Copper Queens were in, it was tough, of course, by the revelation of what happened later on. We saw, of course, USA going all the way and winning it, of course, playing in the final. We also had Germany all the way, being in the last four, and of course, edging Spain out. And of course, just a little bit, if I were to drift, if you look at Spain, that's the only side that lost when it comes to ball games. They did so well, and there is something going on there. There's something cooking when you look at Spain. You look at the senior team, they beat France in earlier this year at the Euros. You look at the junior team, they beat France at a tournament, the Euros for the developmental sides. And then they also went on to beat them in the final for the gold for the main. So that simply shows how organized Spain are right now when you talk about football. And then coming to the group where we were, yes, it was a tough. If you can have from a group of 4, you can have 2 go to play the final, and the third and fourth. It simply shows that was a trick and a tough group. But of course, yes, kudos to both, because they represented a group well, and of course they spiced up the tournament. Football was as interesting as it could be.
Yes, when we look at also at the Olympics, look at the performance of the Zambians, especially the Zambian athletes. We had our own Sam Konga Mzala, and also the relay team, which also reached final. Sam Konga reached final and meeting a bronze. Yep. I think it has been a long time when Zambia at least even gained a medal at the Olympic. Normally they just come and they go there and just participate and come with nothing. How do you look at the performance of Mr. Mzala?
Yes, Tobin, I think that was great for Samuzala. He did represent the country very well. Just like you have said, I think it has been long since Zambia, minted bronze. In this case, I'm talking of 1996 during Samuel Mwenya Matete. You remember at the Olympics, the last time I think Zambia did get that silver.
Silver, yes.
It was Samuel Mwenya Matete who represented the country and managed to bag in that silver medal. But Sam Konga has come on board, has emerged and represented Zambia. He managed to get that medal for Zambia after a long time. Now, it tells you a lot that if Zambia is to carry on and participate at a global stage on that huge platform, talk of the Olympics, we may have such characters like Mzala Sam Konga. I think in this case, for me, I think he is a person that has represented Zambia. You talk of the 400 meters that he has been participating. He has represented Zambia not only during the Olympics, but I think other stages where we have seen Sam Konga, performing very well. So it was expected, and he was not just lucky. I think he would have even gone further to even get that gold. Okay, but just the bronze was good enough for Zambia.
Yeah, and I was wondering, maybe even let's look at that clip for Mzala, especially before he reached the finals, how he performed. Let's just take a look a bit on that clip. Okay, you have seen, actually even in the person who came number one during the finals, he had beaten him earlier. But I don't, what did happen? Was it, didn't he study, isn't it the issue of not studying our opponents? Because he had beaten him. And now in the finals, he became number 3, and even the one who the people had beaten him, overtook him in the finals. It could be the lot of lack of studying other opponents, how they do it or what.
Tovin, when you look at the 400-meter race, scientifically proven it's the most difficult race on how it's conducted. When you look at the pre-quarters, the quarterfinals and semi-finals, Mzala actually did put in a good shift. He did not panic. The composure was there, and of course he was asked as to why he was not giving in his all. His response was he knew they were picking the best 6. So the moment he saw he was in a comfortable position, he stopped pushing and whatnot. But when you look at the final, the guy that went on to win was a little bit further. So it's how you reserve the energy in the tank, how you start, how you compose yourself in the middle of the race, and how you finish is what really matters. And then when you look at Mzala, he did well, and then he kind of, the energy sapped up before the end, and it was the reserve tank that helped the gentleman that won to finish stronger, because there's only a point about a few yards before you can outrun your opponents and go through. So yeah, could be right. A proper study would have helped the gentleman, and of course, kudos to the coaching staff, they've done well, but that's something, a takeaway, they should bring back home and go back to the drawing board and see where they could have done better and how they can improve on that. Of course, not only on Mzala, and the other athletes as well in the future tournaments.
Let's look at also the Zambian lay team. They did so well and actually even reached the finals, but in the end, it was so disappointing that they were number 8. How do you look at their performance as well? Yeah,
disappointing at the end, but the most important thing is that we saw the Zambian relay team getting to the finals. That was the most important thing, okay? Meaning that they are improving on the global stage, okay? It was just quite very disappointing that they couldn't win the race during the finals. But the most important thing, just like I said, it was to see them, in the finals. They are learning; it's a learning stage for them, learning platform. Next time, who knows? They may just get the gold medal, even the bronze.
Learning stage. How long are you going to continue learning instead of bringing medals? We have seen our friends. Like I saw USA, they had about 78 medals, and they were the highest in the world during the Olympics. And as we are still learning, Mr. Chanda, when are we going to learn and start having medals?
Oh well, Tovin, sports in general, it's a basics. It's a game of basics. You miss the basics, you can't do anything at all. When you look at the learning curve, it's been a learning curve for I don't know how long, how many years, but what is the most important thing we are missing in this whole learning process is the basics. What level are we at in terms of athletics in schools? Okay, from schools into high schools, or rather senior secondary schools, as well as tertiary schools, and then from that, how are we doing as national teams? Do we only get to run when we have a month to the tournament? Do we only get to run when we have weeks to the tournament? Definitely it will show when you get there, because for them it's a lifestyle. They've been doing it almost every day. They have the Diamond League, they have all these associations they belong to, and they have kind of tournaments from time to time, quarterly tournaments, and it will keep you in shape. As an athlete, you need to be doing something. You only become better at something after doing it for so long, So those are the basics we need to do. And of course, I would love to make mention, of course, there's one child doing very good at Amano. His name is Tikondwe Kalombe, a very enterprising young man. Of course, it did give Mzala a good chance when they were doing the tryouts at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium. And at the school's tournament in Lusaka, the boy went and won medals, and of course I'm talking about the gold medals, and the West was second. So those are the kind of things we need to look at. Samuel Matete needs to be brought on the fold. That's how our friends do it. Those people that did well, and of course if Muzala does retire, we need to give them roles so that they can develop future talents for the future tournaments for the nation. Give them roles, empower them, and of course pay them as much as you can so that they are in there. They will be having an upper hand and acumen in nurturing the future talents. They will give them the basics, what they would have learned as athletes, and pass them on, and that's how we develop as a country. But if we'll be just doing the runnings prior to the tournament, it's always a learning curve, and we'll keep on learning.
Yeah, indeed. Well, viewers, you are watching The Lens, and today we are discussing football, and my panelists, I have Mr. Chanda, Peter Chanda, and Mr. Melek Meoven. They are my soccer analysts here on the Copper Belt. And let's also look at the Charity Shield, the English Premier League Charity Shield, the game that Man City and Man U played. It was just like the rivalry of the other game they played before they closed the season. Mr. Melek, how do you look at the game for Man City and Man U?
Well, Mr. Tobin, for me it was expected that Manchester City would beat Manchester United. Looking at the way they performed in the previous season, I think Manchester City was a team to reckon with. Okay, and for me, just like I said, it was quite very expected. Manchester United did miss an opportunity to lift the Charity Shield for the 22nd time. Okay, for the 22nd time, they should have won it had they beat Manchester City for the 22nd time. But it wasn't the day. Manchester City did manage, and they bagged in the 7th Charity Shield trophy in England. Okay, they first won it in 1937, then 1972, 1968, 1972. So it tells you a lot that Guardiola has really done it very well for Manchester City. He has bagged in 3 trophies now in his record as head coach of Manchester City. So he has done extremely very well in terms of the performance. So for me, it wasn't something that I was to debate about it. I really expected personally that Manchester City would be too good for Manchester United. Yes, the game would have ended in penalty shootout, but it was expected. They backed in 7-6 on post-match penalties.
Mr. Chanda, the game, the City to City, how do you look at the game which they played over the weekend?
Oh, well, Tofin, when you look at the Manchester Derby, regardless of a kind of game you play, whether it's pre-season, Charity Shield, FA Cup, League, Champions League, it will still have the intensity because of the rivalry. It's a city divided into 2 parts. And looking at the game that was played on Saturday, by the way, that's a trophy that has eluded Man City for quite some time. They've been to the finals in the last 4 times. They lost to Leicester City in the Charity Shield. The following one, they lost to Liverpool. And the other one, they lost to Arsenal. And, you know, somebody may say the curse has been broken. Now that they've won it, they may lose the league. The league they've won 3 times on a trot. But I did watch that game. It's a game that Manchester United should have won. And, of course, they did get a lead via Leandro Garnacho. And right there, they needed to kill off a game. And of course, playing against City is a little difficult, but they respected them a little too much. They should have closed up the gaps and see the game off, because they scored late in the game before they allowed an equalizer via Bernardo Silva. And then the penalty, it's a rotary, it can go either ways. The antics of Onana couldn't work and couldn't save them. And it's a game that Manchester United will leave to blame themselves. They should have closed in and won it because they contend and played well. There were some good interchange of passes. And the positive thing also is both sides, of course, did field in youngsters. It wasn't a full-fledged side from either of the Manchester sides, but it was good, and it was a mixture of experience, middle age, and the youngsters.
Yeah, and also maybe let's look at we come on the local scene where we have the the Carling Black Label Samuel Njovu Charity Shield, the game that was played right here in Ndola at Lev Mwanawasa. We saw Red Arrows rocking horn with the Kawe Warriors, and the Red Arrows, who are the current champions and our flag carrier in the CAF Cup, winning that game by 4-1. Mr. Melek, how do you look at the game which was played, and even how do you look at the Red Arrows going, especially since they are representative in the CAF game?
Yes, Tobin, I think Red Arrows, they had a good game, but if you look at the start of that game, the game started on a quick note, more especially from Kawe Warriors. I was right at the stadium, watched that encounter. Warriors started on a quicker note. They missed 34 seconds. Kawe Warriors already made the shot on goal for Warriors. I think Mutombo Mwamba did manage to shoot away from the 18-yard, and that went over the bar. But Warriors kept on pushing, and we saw that Warriors had missed a lot of myriad of chances, which would have counted in 2 goals. But then came the second half, we saw Red Arrows redeeming themselves. They reorganized their midfield. We saw that Red Arrows started pushing. The moment Adam Yusuf was substituted, Ricky Banda was introduced, and we saw Red Arrows performing. It was just in the 64th minute we saw first goal coming from Red Arrows, coming from no other than Ricky Banda, who scored through a penalty. And a few minutes later, he managed to slot in another goal. It was 2-up for Red Arrows. So for me, I think in terms of quality, Red Arrows is one of the teams in Zambia that has been very busy of all the teams, because they have participated at, you talk of the Sekafa, they did participate in Tanzania. They also went back to Tanzania where they lifted the Sekafa. They played during the Yanga Day. They were invited, even when they lost by goal to nil by Yanga. But it tells you a lot that they did perform very well. They were busy in terms of physical fitness. They were very well prepared. Warriors, I think, they just missed chances in the first half. I think Warriors were too good in the first half. So I may say it was a game of 2 halves, where we saw Warriors in the first half, then Red Arrows capitalized in the second stanza and managed to win by 4-1.
Mr. Chanda, that the game of the moment, or the Charity Shield which was played, how do you look at it as well?
Oh, well, if you do not take chances, you rue those chances, and you lose a game. And like Melvin said, it was a game of 2 halves. The first half, of course, was largely dominated by Kawe Warriors. What really was disappointing was them not taking chances. They should have been 3-4 up before the close of the first half, but they did not take those chances. And what really was the difference between Red Arrows and Kawe Warriors were actually just a number of minutes they've had under their belts. Of course, Red Arrows have been the busiest, of course, playing the Sekafa, going to play Yanga, like Melvin talked about earlier. So it's the minutes that matter. And of course, that will give you the endurance when you're having a game like that. And it should be counting well as they go for the CAF top tier club competition. And of course, representing Zambia. We only hope the coach still has a lot to do. From my observation, yes, they might have beaten Kawe Warriors, but the caliber of opponents they are likely to face when it comes to the CAF Confederation Champions League games, it won't be the Kawe Warriors level. So they need to scrutinize and, of course, tighten up the screws out there. The gameplay still wasn't as impressive as it could be, because they, like we speak, they were outplayed in the first half before they could, of course, take up the second half and win. Yes, so they need to work on style of play and, of course, tweaking tactics here and there so that they can be a formidable side and represent Zambia in the continental competition well.
Yeah, but also the changes which they made helped them, not so. The changes, Mr. Mele.
Yes, the changes did help. You see that it's more especially in the second half. I think we saw Ricky Banda being introduced, and he managed to bag in 2 goals. He scored the brace. The moment they substituted Saddam Yusuf, and then they brought in Ricky Banda, and they started banging goals. And going forward, it wasn't time another goal was scored by Red Arrows. It made it 3-0. So I think Red Arrows, Chisimbewe, Skadiba, I think he has got what it takes. He has the leverage to win a point for Red Arrows. So for me, I think he's a good tactician. He may have failed us at national level during the COSAFA, but what I saw at Levi Monasa Stadium, he's a very good tactician. He was able to play around his tactics, and it paid off for Red Arrows.
Look at again. It was not only the men, and also the women were also participating. The women teams. We had the Choma Queens versus the Green Buffaloes, and the Green Buffaloes humiliating the Choma Queens by 10-0. Mr. Chanda, look at that level, the final 10-0.
Yes, that was really a high score line. When you look at a game where one can score 10 goals to 0, one, you question the level of opponents. And then secondly, I would have loved, of course, Green Buffaloes women's team, they'll also be representing Zambia at the COSAFA, which are the, should I say, CAF Champions League preliminaries. You qualify and then you represent your region. You know, they'll have some good opponents there. And giving them Choma Queens, yes, the criteria probably would have been because they won the National League. That's why they had to be pitted against Green Buffaloes women's team. But looking at where they are going after this game, preparing them and sending them off for a tougher competition, I would have preferred them playing the likes of Red Arrows, Ozesco, and Dollar Girls. That way it would have been better, and they would have sized each other and learn one or two things from the other. Because if you ask me in this case, I'm sure the team that benefited more and learnt a lot from this Charity Shield should have been Choma Queens because of the level. It was 2 levels or 2-tier levels up for them to come and play Green Buffaloes women's team. And of course, being humiliated like that, a coach should have actually picked points. And of course, even the players should be spurred to say the levels where we are going to actually tougher, let's work hard. While for Green Buffaloes women's team, the risk when you play a lower tier club like that, you risk being complacent. And when you go in a tougher tournament, you may have missed an opportunity to put things together and just make ends meet before you go for the tougher tournament.
Yeah, that scoreline, 10-0. Mr. Merrick, how do you look at it?
For me, Tovin, that one, for me, the Choma Warriors, I think they had so much respect for Green Buffaloes. You look at the start of that game. Okay, Buffalo started on a quick note, and they were very organized, starting from the back, the midfield, and the up front. They were playing with the ball, around the ball, and Choma Eagles were nowhere to be seen. Their midfield was not ticking. Okay, even when they scored the first goal, the second goal, and then the third goal, it was 3-0 up, but then they couldn't even change the tempo of the game, even bring a player who could change the tempo of the game. It tells you a lot that they had just much respect for Green Buffaloes, knowing for sure that Buffaloes had played at a very high stage. They have participated on the COSAFA tournament. They have represented Zambia in Morocco. So for me, yes, they may have lost, but I had that in mind that they may just try to overcome Buffaloes, more especially that they did represent very well during the time they won the league. No wonder first they had that criteria to pick Choma Warriors to play Buffaloes because they won the league in Southern Province and they were to play Buffaloes. So for me, it's because they just had too much respect for Buffaloes. But just like Peter said, I think it looked that Buffalo should have opponents like maybe Zesco Girls, Ndola Girls, and then maybe Indeni, so that they can have a tough opponent going to represent Zambia, more especially during the COSAFA qualifiers. But then we saw that they played the Choma Warriors, who were not very good enough. They managed to beat them by 10 goals to 0.
Okay. Now, this Charity Shield, the game that was played, and it's we can call it a curtain raiser for the Premier League games to begin. And maybe your last words as the teams are going into the Premier League, and are we going to see a challenge maybe to Red Arrows Championship, especially now they'll be participating in in the CAF, and maybe the attention will be divided so the others can take advantage of that. Mr. Chand.
Tovin, the good thing about the Charity Shield, as it's called, of course, it's a curtain raiser. It calls for a lot and a lot more football. So it's not only the league that they will be looking forward to. They'll also be looking, in their case, they'll be looking at the COSAFA, and eventually if they go past that level, then they go for the Champions League in terms of women football. Well, for the guys, the case is the same for Red Arrows, but for Cabo Warriors, it's time to regroup. They'll have to be looking forward to the ABSA. They have to be looking forward to the league itself. So, yes, the curtain raiser, the die is cast. Now let's enjoy some scintillating football.
Your last words as we end the program, Mr. Merrick, as well. Now we are entering into Premier League. What are your expectations, especially for the big teams, especially on the Copa Belt here we had in Ghana, which they had a rough period in the Premier League last season. Are we expecting them to redeem themselves this time?
Yes, Tobin, I expect a very interesting Zambian Super League this season, 2024-2025 season. The curtain raiser was played on Saturday. We saw Red Arrows beating Cabo Warriors. But going into this coming league, I see that Red Arrows has got what it takes. They have a formidable side. They have invested a lot in the team, where we have seen that they have maintained most of their key players, and they managed even to get players like Godfrey Ngwenya from Cabo Warriors. So for me, I think it's a very stable team, and looking forward that they can even win it again consecutively, this Zambian Premier League, because they have really shown that they have the character to win the league for the second time again in a row.
Thank you. Well, viewers, we have come to the end of our program, The Lens, where we have been looking at the Charity Shield, which was played here in Zambia, and also the Charity Shield and in the English Premier League and our own Premier League here. And we looked at the games, the Olympic games that were played, especially the women team, the USA versus Brazil, and also the men team, Spain versus France, and also where we had also our African teams like Morocco and Egypt doing us proud by reaching the semi-finals at the Olympics. And we also had our own Muzala, who also at least minted a bronze, at least to bring something home to appreciate what he has done. I think he has done a great job. And also we had the athletes, despite not performing well on that final day, they reached the finals, and this is what we need. And for more sports game, please look out on your Zanis channel, your People's channel. So we'll be bringing you some of these programs, especially the games that will be being played, especially when the English Premier League starts. And as we end, and just to introduce you my panel once more, I had Mr. Peter Chanda, who is also a soccer analyst, and Mr. Melvin Merrick, popularly known as Bebeto, to analyze the games for today. So, and I was your host, Tovin Ngombe, and behind the scenes, I have Mr. Kavambi Mungule, who's in charge of my technician, and also the camera persons. We have Mr. Chibesa Kunda, Kelvin Chibesa Kunda, Docas Kunda, and also Madam Sylvia Sarasin. So we say goodbye and thank you for watching or tuning in to your sports program, or for viewing your sports program right here on Zanis television. See you next time. Bye-bye.